FLF episode 6. What's up, boys?
What's up?
How's it going?
So I've got a little update. In one of our earlier episodes, I mentioned that I was happy seeing Chicago Bears fans wallowing in their pity. They whipped the Commanders' ass just the other night. It is the second worst loss I've ever witnessed. So yeah, Bears fans, fuck you.
I can't stand the Bears.
Don't like them.
Just the whole thing with Jay Cutler and all that. I mean, I did like Jay Cutler for his lack of trying whenever he was a quarterback. You know, he used to smoke cigarettes on the sidelines.
Dude, Jay Cutler's one of my favorite. He's one of my favorite sports personalities, just because he does have that. He's a dude who happens to be good at playing football, and he just made it as far as he did. Just like, well, I can't fuck up enough, and he just kept not fucking up until he did. So, shout out to Jay Cutler.
Didn't he have the record for the most sacks on him in the season, and then he still made it to the playoffs or something like that?
I don't know that fun fact. I know that David Carr had the rookie sack record, and our team, the Commanders, they are doing their best to break it right now. So there's our Sam Howell is something. He's coming up on this. I think he's on track for 100 sacks this season. It's brutal to watch. But while we're talking about Washington, John, you have brought to us a story about George Washington, the weather wizard, or the bulletproof weather wizard.
Well, I mean, he's just incredible. The more facts that I learned about George Washington, it's like he's not only is he bulletproof, but either he was in control of the weather or he was just the luckiest guy on earth. Because let me just start by saying it all started in 1775 when George was the aide to General Braddock. Aide de camp is the official term, which, you know what I mean? What it really means is he was the field secretary, or he was like a golf caddy, pretty much, to the general. But during the battle, General Braddock's horse got shot out from under him, and George just decided, you know what I mean? It was like a rattlesnake with its head cut off, but they had kidnapped the head, which this rattlesnake was no longer dangerous. It was just a squirming body with a rattle on the end. And this rattle just wasn't any ordinary rattle. It was George, no middle name, Washington. And he was like, I'm going to assume command. And he did. He started ordering people around. He grabbed a horse, started riding back and forth between the officers and the battlefield, relaying messages. Let's see. Which
battle is this? Is there a name for it?
Times. They aimed at him. He's sitting there on his horse, giving out commands, and the Native Americans were aiming directly at him, shooting at him. He had bullet holes in his coat. He had bullets in his pocket, and he just would not go down. And at the end of the battle, when he went back and you know what I'm saying, that after the war was over, one of the Indian chiefs rode out and personally spoke to Washington. And I want to just read to you what he said. Where is it at?
Did you know the name of the battle by any chance?
I think I got it written down somewhere.
You said he's fighting natives, so I'm wondering if that was in King Philip's War. I don't know. I don't know that much time. I learned about it, but I haven't thought about that in such a very long time. But 1775 is an interesting time because that's pre-revolution, right? Or is that in
right
the
around
revolution? Right?
It's around the start of it. Like it really
1776 is what I think of, and that's I can't
yeah,
remember if
but
that's when we
like
won or if
in
that's when we declared independence.
before, well, that's when we declared independence. We had stuff going on before that, like the Boston Tea Party, and there's even
Yeah.
some stuff that happened, like the Waxhaw Pacts and stuff like that. And it happened in North Carolina in like the 1750s. There was a revolt, but it got quashed, and they all had to sign pacts saying that they were going to stay loyal to the king. But this is where things started popping off,
right?
right?
Basically, what happened is they were aiming directly for Washington as the chief had commanded. The warriors had leveled their rifles directly at the officer on horseback. Round after round was pointed at this man. 2 times his horse was shot out from under him. 13 shots were fired by Indian sharpshooters, and still he was unhurt on his horse. And like I said, the Native American, he realized that it must be some kind of almighty power shielding him. And he commanded them to stop firing at him because he believed that whatever was protecting him, that he was some kind of great man that deserved everything that was coming to him. But he rode out and he spoke to him later on, and he said, I am the chief and the ruler of all tribes. My influence extends to the waters of the Great Lakes and to the far blue mountains. I have traveled a long and weary path that I might see the young warrior of the great battle. It was on the day when the white man's blood mixed with the streams of our forest that I first beheld this chief Washington. I called to my young man and said, Mark yon tall and daring warrior. He is not of the redcoat tribe. He hath an Indian's wisdom. His warriors fight as we do, himself alone exposed. Quit, let your aim be certain. Our rifles were leveled, rifles which for you knew not how to miss. 'Twas all in vain. A power mightier far than we know had shielded you. I just it's amazing how much luck that he had, because later on when he was fighting the Revolutionary War, they were completely surrounded in Boston, and they didn't know what to do. They were ill. They were some of them didn't have shoes. It was freezing cold. They were outmanned, outgunned, and they had nearly any firepower left, right? But George Washington, the freaking weather wizard that he is, decided, well, fate may be on our side. We just need a daring plan. And Henry Knox was like, I've got an idea. We just won all the ammunition at, what is the name of that? I can't say this word.
Tippecanoe?
No. Oh my God. I got it.
Ticonderoga?
Ticonderoga. Yep. They had just won at Ticonderoga. And he knew there was 5,400 pounds of live ammunition just sitting there. There were cannons sitting there. There were all these different things that they needed, supplies that they needed. So Henry Knox is like, okay, I'm going to travel 300 miles and I'm going to bring this stuff back and we're going to move forward with the war. And George is like, okay, that sounds stupid. That's the exact kind of plan that we need. You know what I'm saying?
By God, it'll work.
Yeah.
There's a saying in the military that if it's stupid and it works, then it's not stupid.
They bet on this plan, yeah.
So just to jump in real quick. So it was 1755, and it was the French and Indian War that you're referencing. So just to clarify there, because this we are talking about historical facts, and people are going to listen to that and be like, oh, they're idiots. And yes, we are dumb, but we can at least fact check dates. So,
Well, with the French and Indian War, real quick, didn't he kind of get stomped pretty bad, and then like they started to question whether he should be a general or not?
I don't remember my Washington history, whether that was during the Revolution or whether that was during the French and Indian War, but I do know that there was a stretch where he was just completely incompetent. But he was rich. So when you're rich back then, you get to be general. So
yeah. Well, with what John's got to say, he definitely redeems himself.
Oh, for sure. There's a reason he goes on to be, fucking Mr. America.
Actually, the whole reason that he won the presidency was because he was from Virginia. Like, you think there's some great meaning to it, but it was just the fact that he had grown up in Virginia, and that just happened to be the one that secured his presidency.
Mm.
But back to the Revolutionary War, like we were talking about. Where was I at?
Page
Henry
2.
Knox. We were at Henry Knox. So Henry Knox decides that he's gonna go to, say that word again, Dan.
Ticonderoga.
Ticonderoga. Wow, that is a word. But in order to get there, they were going to have to pray that the river that they were going to cross was not frozen yet, and that they could make it across. So they broke down their camp, they loaded it all up on the ships, and they headed out to Ticonderoga. I like the nod.
You're progressively getting better at the word, John.
Right? And when they get there, they were going to need, oh boy, this is a lot. They were going to need 40 oxen. They were going to need a flotilla of ships, and God's grace that when they get back there, that there was enough snow for the oxen to be able to carry the cannons and everything on the payloads of the sleds. And when they get back to the river, because the river they crossed to get there was unfrozen enough that they could sail across it. When they needed to get back, it needed to be frozen enough so they could pull the sleds of the munitions back across. And of course, George Washington, being the weather wizard he is, he sat there and he freaking did his little dance. And by the time that they got there at Ticonderoga, this heavy snowfall came, and they loaded up all the oxen with all the different cannons, the munitions and everything, and started trudging the snow. And by the time they got back to the river, it was frozen enough, but as they tried to cross it at first, it started sinking and falling in. They lost a cannon to the water. They lost like a whole week sitting there waiting. But the weather cooperated finally and froze it over enough to where they got to cross, and they made it to their destination. And the munitions was just like the turning point of the Revolutionary War. You know what I'm saying? That's when they started turning the tides, because George Washington is like the Eli Manning of freaking wartime. You know what I'm saying? He's facing the Patriots not once but twice.
Now
the England Patriots.
Yes,
not the New England.
Is this when he crossed the Delaware River? Is that what we're talking about?
I think so.
No.
That's a different one. Okay,
that's a whole nother can
fun
of worms.
Story.
We're open up.
Which river?
All kinds of fun things right now.
Which river is it? I've been sitting here in my head trying to remember which one it is. It's got a stupid name. Not Allegheny.
I don't think that Knox kept good enough records for us to know which river it was, because that's what I was looking for it yesterday, and I could not find it.
Oh, I wonder if that's the Knox that we named Fort Knox after.
I don't think it's him. It may be, but I think it might be one of his descendants. God, what is the name of that river? Like it's the famous river, like that. It's gonna bother me till I remember. But anyway, so the river froze over, and this is whenever like is this during the time where they were like outnumbered and they were getting flanked and they were worried about losing New York?
No. That's coming up next.
Gotcha.
But no, what it was is when George Washington needs it to be warm and needs the water to flow, it's warm and the water flows. When he needs it to snow, the snow comes. And when he needs it to be cold enough for the water to freeze back over, I mean, it's like either he was incredibly lucky or, which they said, I read an article that said that he kept very detailed records growing up of the weather patterns in Virginia and other places like that. Like, he definitely was in tune with Mother Nature. But you mentioned what happened in New York, and that was August of 1776, which was 1 month after we have declared that we were a nation. And that was a month into the Revolutionary War, and it was underway. And during this battle, we were still underprepared. We were fighting, let's see here. It was who were we fighting at that time?
England?
William Howe. Commander-in-Chief William Howe. He was out there in the Manhattan Bay with a giant arsenal of cannons, gunfire, troops. The king had already decided that he was pissed off and he was not going with the flow with what was going on in America. And he was pretty much willing to throw anything that he had. He was going to throw the kitchen sink at George Washington at this point and his yuppie troop of revolutionaries. But during this time, we were underprepared for the major battle that was underway. We decided that the Manhattan Bay was the best place for us to set up shop. And the British Army actually knew that. And they were an actual army. They were handing out actual ass kickings. Their commander-in-chief, William Howe, took a break during this whole thing because he was out there just whipping our ass. And he was like, okay, guys, we're going to take a break because the wind isn't cooperating and our sails aren't working. So they're already licking their wounds. You know what I'm saying? Which was another instance that George Washington's weather wizardry was underway because the winds couldn't sail enough for them to get back to just dock on land and really hand it out to him.
I wonder if he sacrificed a tooth every time he needed the weather to change, and that's how he
getting into the occult.
It's just the tooth fairy decided, you know what? Instead of gold coins, I'll give you breaks in the weather.
Well, I know during this part in the war too, we were sending people diplomatically to like France and other countries to try to get them to get on board with our revolution. And at this time, they were so worried that we could even like get our army together and coordinate them. They didn't want to supply anything because they were like, man, they're going to get their asses whooped bad.
Well, Ben
Honestly,
Franklin
they were right.
his way through France.
Yeah. I mean, they were right at that. I mean, like, they knew that they were kicking our ass when we were out there in Manhattan, and we had to secure New York because that was just that. I mean, even back then, it was the place of great trades. It was a place of, resources. It was exactly where we needed to be. But for some reason, Howe decided that during this time that he was bored.
Taking a mental health day, man.
Yeah.
Kill enough of your, you got to take a day off, bro.
Yeah. So George Washington, he started feeding bad information to spies because he decided that at this point in time to retreat just a little bit so he could get his stuff together was the best option for him. So he sends bad information to spies, and then he goes inside of his quarters and he pulls out his rain stick and he does his little rain dance, right? And he sent word for them to send every ship that they could possibly muster together to the Manhattan Harbor. And as soon as he sends word, the rain started pouring down out of the skies. And as these ships show up, General Howe couldn't see them coming in because the rain he was just far enough out of sight, and the rain was coming down so hard. So during this time, they basically load everything up into these boats to the point that it's an empty lot. They all hop on board, and then dawn comes, and this heavy fog sets in over the New York area. And once the heavy fog set in, Hal couldn't see them at all. And they pretty much gave him the finger, and all he saw was taillights as they were heading out.
Oh, Mother Nature just definitely needed a win there.
Oh yeah, I know another thing too is with Washington, there was a lot of these times that his the people were wanting to be subordinate to him because they're just this is a dumb idea, this is suicide, and he's just go with it, it's gonna work, I promise, boys. And it would, every time.
Right.
Well, if there was ever someone who sold their soul to the devil, it was him.
Yeah, and then go ahead.
It's funny that you say that because he was known for riding up 30 yards away from the enemies and just posting up and setting up shop there. And he would stare directly into their eyes as they're firing at him. And they were George Washington is the one who coined the whole thing of, he would tell his men, shoot the guy on the horse. Because if we shoot the commander, then the army's not going to know what to do. But
you know what? Shoot the horse too. Might as well just shoot the horse.
Well, it's got to be something for everyone, right?
That's how he ended up in the whole situation of being the colonel of the army to begin with. Is because, when Braddock was shot, he was the only man that knew the area. He was the only one that, because he was, he was from that area, and he was so well versed in all the trails and everything. He was the one that could actually be in command.
Right.
Like I said, his brother once told him that the sounds of bullets whizzing by your ears was like a symphony. And it's he took this literally, you know what I'm saying? I guess he thought that it sounded like whistling, and he decided that it was the music. I mean, honestly, you could say it was the devil's music, or it was the symphony of heaven, because either way, it seemed like at the end of these battles, he was going to meet one or the other.
Did you cover that part where the tornado affected the British? Did you get that in there?
Oh man, I didn't even catch that one.
Oh well, there was a time I believe, I remember this was a Cracked article that I read, but they were outnumbered, and it everybody was wanting them to surrender, and then all of a sudden the weather changed and a tornado just completely decimated the British army. Just came right down out of the sky and took them out.
Time after time after time. And it's when he needs it to rain, it rains. When he needs fog, there's fog. When he needs snow, the snow comes. It's time after time, the weather was just, they almost think that he was into witchcraft or something like that, or
well, he was a Mason. He was a 33rd degree Mason.
Yeah.
I think that might have been something different back in the day, man. Now, I wonder, talking about tornadoes, that's kind of, you think about where that happens. This is all along the East Coast for that to happen. You know what I mean? That's got to be such a strange thing. Most of those people hadn't seen tornadoes.
Especially the British.
Well, yeah, right. They don't have Tornado Alley the way we do, which is a strange thing because you have to say, like, I don't know about weather patterns in other countries. Like, I mean, I've never thought about tornadoes hitting other places, but it has to happen, right? But yeah, no, dude, that's got to really mess with your mind. All of a sudden, like some weird act of God coming down from the sky and just throwing things everywhere. I mean, like, yeah, there's a flying cow in there, guarantee it.
Yeah,
They had stories that, I mean, like his reputation far exceeded him. Like I said, I really feel like he just dorked his way into these
well, he definitely had a cult of personality about him because, like, Lafayette was French royalty. He was born like a millionaire in that time money, and he wanted to fight. He was inspired by Washington and the fight for the revolution. He at first the French council or the French kingdom didn't want him to go, and he dorked his way onto a ship like secretly and got over there, got with Washington, and was just begging to be a part of this war. And Lafayette was throwing himself into like suicide missions for Washington. And like at first, and he didn't have to do that, but like just the story spread so far with him that like he was like, I want to be a part of this. I want to be remembered to be fighting by your side. And I forgot which fort it was, but like it held up because of Lafayette and then the reinforcements they got. They were getting people from France. I forgot all the countries. I watched something about this the other day, but it was all just Washington's inspired this out of guys.
Well, they had a vested interest in watching England fail. So they were able to come in and help us out because of that situation. Now, granted, there were, anytime you have that type of situation where there's some type of revolution coming up, the power in charge has enemies. And we saw this with like in Iraq and Afghanistan, there were people from other countries who were taking up arms just to fight against us because it had happened. You know what I mean? So when it was a world power that joins in the fight, like France, I mean, that's a lot better than just some random dude showing up.
Right. I just really think a lot of his clout came from the fact that here you have this man, he shows up in this brightly colored, because he had specially made uniforms.
Right.
For each one of his battles.
He had like trench coats and shit like that.
Yeah. And
he was the original nerd.
Right. That's why he was doing all the cosplay before anybody else. That's why he was so successful.
He shows up looking like Django Unchained. You remember that bright blue suit that he wore at the end of the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was such an interesting movie.
Yeah, it was. I love that movie.
I just couldn't imagine, like, here you are, he rides up here 30 yards away from the enemy with like this glazy, I'm gonna kill you death stare in his eyes. He's got bullet holes in his jacket. He's pulling bullets out of his pockets. And the whole time he's like telling his men, who the fuck is scared of bullets? You know what I'm saying? Like, I like the sound of this,
right?
Yeah, especially with muskets. I'm surprised he didn't have a set of bullet teeth, since he had wooden teeth and he had like teeth made out of carpet and whatever else he could find around, probably out of the kitchen sink too.
Right. He was quoted once saying, "Parade with us, my brave fellows. There is but a handful of the enemy, and we have them directly." And here he is, like, just unarmed, staring right at them. They're all trying to retreat and run away. They're like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm not trying to get shot. You know what I'm saying? And he's just sitting on his horse, probably eating beef jerky.
Pemmican. That's what they had back then, was pemmican.
Just salting it with lead.
Now, I know he pissed off some people along the way because, like, Benedict Arnold ended up being a traitor because, he was doing so well, and every time he would get overlooked for, like, promotions or something like that he did, they would, like, credit someone else to the point that he ended up, like, siding with England, which,
well, at that point in time, nobody expected the United States to win. I mean, we were just a bunch of country bumpkins out there. Not like I said, they didn't even have shoes.
Oh, we were the
Yeah.
That
underdogs
was
for
one of
sure.
the main things they sent out for when Henry Knox went on his crusade to Ticonderoga. They were like, bring back some shoes, man. These guys, their feet were leaving bloody footprints in the snow.
Mhm.
That is insane.
I know that too, like with what you're talking about, there were people within the country that didn't know, especially in the Carolinas. You had a lot of like England, like sympathizers for the royalty, especially like I guess like we had the governor here in New Bern that he had a lot of sympathizers in this area, and a lot of the bloodiest battles happened here in North and South Carolina. Like I said earlier, in the Waxhaws. Up north, they did have quite a few bloody battles, but then you had like people like Benjamin Franklin that was going to dinner parties with the British, and they're just like, I think we're gonna win, and the British are like, no, I don't know about that. Let's have some more cake. And then down here in South Carolina, they're literally like shooting each other and stabbing each other with wooden sticks and stuff.
Right?
Both sides were like
The Carolinas
deprived.
had their fair share of debutantes. Let's not put all that hate on Ben Franklin, the man who invented bifocals. Now, Dan. But
I don't know. He had all those dead bodies in his house too.
Oh yeah, that was a fun fact I learned recently.
Yeah.
Just a random science back in the day, or he was just a serial killer and got away with it because he was Ben Franklin, not the first rich famous person to get away with murder. But one of the reasons the Carolinas had such bloody battles is the weather. I mean, it's just
yeah.
We had the main ports. I mean, Charleston's been a big city for such a long time, and then we had was it Fort Macon was there too? So I mean, it's a major hub and port there. But yeah, I mean, people coming in, taking over the trades, plus that's where a lot of the agriculture comes from. So strategically, cutting off the food supply is a big, it's a big goal for the, or not, I should say cutting off food supply, but taking control of the food supply is a big goal. And if you're going on a war of conquest.
Yeah.
Another thing is back then, getting messages across was the biggest, you know what I mean? Like not getting a message on time in those times was crucial for these wars.
But I'm impressed with the way that word was able to move, because I was thinking, like they're on foot or they're like by oxen or things like that, but things still moved pretty fast for the time.
About that, you guys were talking about the crossing of the Delaware, right? So we were talking about British sympathizers a minute ago. There was actually a British sympathizer that was trying to get word to Colonel John Rawl during that time that George Washington and the boys, you know what I mean, after they had given the old okey doke to Howe out there in Manhattan, you know what I'm saying? But like at this point in time, they were pretty pissed off. The old king was mad, and I don't know if it was the fact that George Washington was really lucky, or that the king's men were just so insubordinate, because a British sympathizer had tried to send word to Rawl that he had seen George Washington crossing the Delaware and he was heading that way. And this was at the time that George and the boys had gotten all their bearings together. You know what I'm saying? They were actually turning this thing around. So the letter arrives to Colonel John Rawl. You know what I mean? This is the commander-in-chief, mind you. He takes the letter, he slips it into his pocket, and he continues drinking and playing poker.
Just moved on with his life.
Imagine the reprimand when they got back to England. You know what I'm saying? You did what?
Yeah, you kindly leave that out of your after action report, man. You just, we tried, but maybe that letter doesn't get to you.
I know when the tides finally turned in the war too, when it came to the North Carolina side, word got to the governor that, hey, we're losing, and these pissed off farmers and soldiers, they're coming for you to the Tryon Palace, and they're not happy with you. and he fled in the middle of the night to Wilmington. He had like a trusty slave that helped him get along too. Like, I'll be by your side the whole time. And that's something too that like Wilmington was a very big sympathizing city for the English at that time. Like I said, there was a lot of like royalists in the area. And that's not the only time in history that Wilmington has done something against America. Like, it wasn't like the only like coup, like military government coup overthrow, like was in Wilmington. They overthrew the government.
Bastard city for sure. We should do an episode. We should do an episode on them in the next couple of weeks, actually.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, Wilmington. We met the in-laws down there one time, and I was sitting inside a ice cream shop across the street from across the street from a comic book store. I watched, I don't know, 6 drug deals happen, like in the time it took us to eat ice cream. And I got kids, man. They eat that shit quick. So, yeah, Wilmington. I've never been a big fan. They do a terrible job with traffic too.
Oh, it's the worst. It takes 2 hours to get down there, or two hours to get there, and 2 hours to get out of there.
Yes, exactly.
I went to a hot dog and ice cream place. It's got one regular hot dog, one root beer float, and it was like $20, and it was the worst that I ever had. Their aquarium's overrated. It has nothing compared to our aquarium.
That was an offensive amount of money to spend on a hot dog, dude.
Dude, and then like at the aquarium, they had what they called a hurricane machine. It's literally like 3 hair dryers blowing on you. And I was like, this is bullshit.
That's a waste of money. Now, dude, I got a sausage and like pepper sandwich at Washington Redskins at the time. Redskins game for $8. If you pay $20 for a hot dog, bro, they robbed you. You should sue them.
Yeah.
Real quick though, so talking about getting shot. So back then it was basically you get amputated. You get shot, you get amputated. In doing research for a different topic, I came across a doctor named Robert Liston, and he has the fastest amputation on record at 2.5 minutes. Now, this is not in the same timeline. This isn't the same guy.
I know.
In this case, this dude, in amputating the leg, killed the patient. Or maybe he hit an artery and eventually killed the patient. But at the same time, he cut off his surgical aide's fingers. That person died from gangrene. And then somebody in the audience was so like disturbed by watching it happen, they went into shock and died. Yeah. So it's on record as a 300% kill rate. So, which is very rare for when you're operating on one person. So I don't know how I was going to work that in, but we just happened to be talking about weird stuff. So there you go. Fun fact for everyone.
Right.
Did you have any more on Washington?
The only other thing that I really was intrigued about was the fact that everybody always comes to the same conclusion when it comes to Washington is how can he sit there and fight for the freedom of Americans and say that all men are created equal and then own a plantation full of slaves? And I know that he definitely saw the irony in this himself. And he wrote several letters saying that he was torn between the fact that, his slaves and his wife's slaves had all like become married and all had children together. And he didn't know what to do because here he is fighting for all this, declaring all men are created equal. And yet he's a slave owner. And he was like, I want to get rid of slavery altogether. You know what I'm saying? As the whole country, he was like, but I don't feel like after winning our freedom, and after, now we're appointing presidents, we're declaring ourselves a nation, we're learning how to do all this. He was like, freeing the slaves on top of that, it just seems like too sudden that people are going to revolt. You know what I'm saying? Because this is how they make their money.
Yep.
But he had also learned from some of his friends and from just in Virginia in general that you could own a plantation and not have to rely on slave work. because really it's a business. Looking at it from a business standpoint, you know, you're feeding these people, you're clothing these people, you're housing these people. You know what I'm saying? This is a tool to them at that time. So you have to take care of it. And then they're all married together. They're having kids, which, you know, you have the ones that are too old to work and then the ones that are too young to work. So you're paying, you know, there's 35% right there of your population that you're still having to take care of. That, and the way he looked at it was just like, I just want to be done with the whole thing. So he put in his will that when he died, all of his slaves were going to be freed. And he made his wife promise that she would free her slaves too, because, you know what I mean, they were families and they were all like I said, they were all intertwined.
That was such a hard time because slavery was socially acceptable, and there was bigoted reasons for it. There's a reason that it was Africans who were enslaved, and there's a reason the laws were written in a way that Black people couldn't overcome slavery. And a lot of that was tied to, well, obviously the bigotry of, you know, they're a lesser race, things like biblically justified, but economically driven as well. And if I'm not mistaken, one of the initial draft of the Declaration of Independence included that. However, it was taken out as a compromise, basically a deal with the devil to get South Carolina on board.
Yeah, they've always been about rebelling. They always do. I hate that state so much. It's
Absolutely.
a garbage
It's
state.
the worst state.
It, like, if you ever go drive through there, it literally looks like they've slapped it together. Like all the landscaping, the roads, everything. The roads look like they're recycled roads that were thrown away by other states. The
You
people
can cross
slapped together.
95 south into South Carolina, and the roads immediately get better. Keep going south, you hit Georgia, the roads immediately get better.
Immediately.
They're not good at things other than just being assholes.
We were driving to Atlanta, and there was a median in between oncoming, or not oncoming, but like same parallel traffic. Like, I was like, why are my traffic brethren divided from me? What is the purpose of this?
It was just there because
like 4 miles before you join the traffic, you're like, hey, there you guys are.
Yeah.
It's like driving through a tunnel.
It's like they have to make sure that they don't drive into each other, and they are the worst drivers too. They all drive as fast as they can up to your bumper, then get out of the way, and they drive as fast as they can up to the next bumper. I've never seen anything as ridiculous.
I'm sorry, Dan. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say they elected a guy, that Strom Thurmond, that was in the Senate till he was about 152. And then they replace him with Lindsey fucking Graham, who's the only other, you with Lauren Boebert and her getting in trouble with jacking dudes off in the theater. Pretty sure he's done the same thing plenty of times. Yeah. He gets away with it.
That man is so far in the closet. It's sad to see.
Oh, be still, my gentle heart. I'm just a Southern debutante.
Yeah, we were. We had a forced landing in South Carolina. We had to land in the whatever base.
Well, of course you got forced there. I mean, nobody goes there.
No, it wasn't our choice, right? But yeah, so we had to rent a van, and we drove from South Carolina up to back home, back to Goldsboro. And dude, there was this woman, and she was driving this minivan, and it's a 2-lane road. I'm sorry, it's two lanes this way. There's a median, 2 lanes that way, and I don't know what it was, but she just felt the urge that she needed to be in front of us. And I'm not driving, and I've got horrible road rage. I don't need to be driving a van full of adults. So one of the older guys is driving, right? And this van, like, it pulls up, it gets in front of us, and then immediately slows down. And then it took us, I don't know, another 15 miles to get around them. And we got around them, it's not like we were sitting there with our middle fingers out the window or anything like that. But they just couldn't deal with the fact that the car was in front of them. So they sped up to try to get around us. Thank God the person driving the car didn't let them get in front of us, because they immediately started going slow. It was South Carolina. It's pretty rough there. I don't like driving there. I did see one night when my wife and I were going down there. There was somebody who was weed whacking at like, I don't know, 11:30 at night. Like we almost hit him. I'm like, what are you doing, dude?
I got to get the weeds out of the highway.
It's not if you're driving through a neighborhood. It wasn't the HOA. Like this dude's just out weed whacking, man. I don't know. That's one of the stranger things. That and we were driving through Swansboro. And I take it back. This is a story brother told me. He's driving through Swansboro, and he sees somebody dragging a deer into the woods. And then 2 miles later, he sees somebody with a bagpipe and an American flag. So that's strange stuff, man. But to get back to where we were going, someone can get this on track because I talk about South Carolina for hours.
Oh yeah,
my God. Right.
I will say about Washington. Like he was ahead of his time for sure. I mean, he warned the country, like, they made him be president. He was like working on his like plum orchard or whatever it was in Mount Vernon, and they made him. Huh?
I wanted to talk about that. Yeah, continue.
And
That's great.
They made him become. They're like, we need you back. We're lost without you. And he was just like, well, duty calls. So he goes back as he's leaving presidency. He shaped our country and, got us going in a great way, pulled us out of the backwoods. And then he told them, he's like, the downfall of us is going to come from within. It's going to come from political party fighting and foreign intervention. And it wasn't even like the next presidency with John Adams and then Thomas Jefferson. They started political parties and foreign intervention, tried to invade Canada and lost to the freaking Mounties. It's a shame. They just didn't listen to the guy. And here we are today.
Weird back then because like they would have the runner-up would be the vice president.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so I'm glad they made change with that.
Yeah.
Did you imagine fucking Biden or how big of a shit show it would have been if like Trump was president and Hillary Clinton was vice president, and then Biden was president and Trump was vice president? See that?
Wow.
So bad.
We couldn't exist in this world. Like someone would have definitely hit a nuclear button.
Oh yeah. But did you have any more about that?
I was gonna say that, like, you were talking about how he ended up on Mount Vernon trying to live a peaceful life when they asked him to become president. Do you know how he got there to begin with? After the height of the Revolutionary War, they were like, "You can do anything. You're this amazing." Like they had these great heights that they were sailing on with George Washington. They loved him, and he was like, they were like, "What are you gonna do next?" And he's like, "I quit. I'm going home."
Fuck y'all, I'm out.
And when the King of England heard about that, they were like, "Are you still mad at him?" He's like, "How could you be mad at that man? If that's really what he did, how could you be mad at him?" And they just let that whole thing go.
Till about 10 years later when they tried invading us again, which
Right.
all of what happened in the Waxhaws, like I talked about earlier, I think that's what inspired Andrew Jackson to turn into a homicidal maniac towards the British. I gotta be honest, I hate the British too. Like,
sure.
Like, there's just, have y'all seen that meme where it's like the soccer field and the guy's got a thing of fries and it has chickpeas and gravy on it, and he's like, I'm enjoying the game. And it's like Paul Revere rode his horse in the middle of the night to protect me from this shit.
Now, there's a lot to hate there.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dan.
Did you look into his? Oh, go ahead.
Washington, we would all have stupid accents right now. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Well, we would sound like we're from like down east in North Carolina. Like they still have elements of that, which I'm not sure how that survived hundreds of years.
Well, if you're talking about like down east, it's because they are direct descendants of the down east people. They never left. It's like an island on the mainland. But what I find fascinating about Washington was more his death. Because like I want to write a comedy play about his like the last moments of him when the doctors were trying to save him because it's the biggest botch job in history.
Dude,
For
you
God's
imagine the
sakes, just
pressure.
let me down.
He's just like, the former president has a cough. What do we do? Well, doctor, we either need to give him more blood or less blood. How do we get
Do
the
you have
blood into
surgical
him?
squirts?
Hold on.
4
I think
score and 7 leeches ago.
I think I have a snorkel. We'll use a snorkel. Get the squirrels. The squirrels will save him. Put him in his pants. The
Okay,
squirrels
we're
aren't
gonna have
working.
to start electrocuting him. The squirrels have gone south.
Have you tried putting ice into his orifices? If he has a high temperature, the ice will certainly cool him down. That's
Well,
brilliant.
Mr. Washington, you shouldn't have walked barefoot in the weather.
I've got an idea. Inject him with mercury.
Have you tried hitting him
Damn
with
it.
large books?
Someone
maybe if
call
we-
John Adams. We need more whiskey.
Maybe if we hit him with the medical books, the medical information will go into his brain and he'll know what to do. He's the smartest man in the room. Quick, summon the demons.
Dude, talking about bad medicine or crazy medicine. There is a documentary for John Adams. I shouldn't say documentary. A reimagining of John Adams. Not even a reimagining, whatever. Historical drama. There we go. Those are the words I'm looking for. And so John Adams is out being, doing John Adams thing, saving the world. And his wife gets his daughters and sons smallpox vaccinations. And smallpox vaccinations back in the day was a doctor carrying her on a cart full of people who were dying from smallpox and cutting them and then cutting you with the same knife.
Oh.
Dude, it's terrible. It's
Yeah.
horrible. It's better than leeches, I guess. So they said stick leech on, take it off, and stick it on you.
Yeah.
Throwing books
But-
at people sounds way better.
Yeah, they did so much wrong to him. Like so many unnecessary enemas in his last moments. In fact, that probably was the death of him. They probably drowned him with the enemas.
Beer chug in Washington.
Everything needs to go in and then it needs to come out.
Have you tried?
For this country?
Have you tried smothering him with the pillow yet? Because maybe if we pre-kill him and bring him back enough times, he'll be fine. Good as new. Mwah.
Hang him upside down by his feet and then hit him with the tickling stick.
Damn it, man. I said hit him.
Has anyone tried to? His wife's probably like, has anyone tried giving him medicine? Medicine? No. He doesn't need medicine. He
Anger
needs
for
more.
heredity.
It's funny, all the things they tried to revive him with were what they used to kill Rasputin.
They directly looked at the medical logs for saving Washington as a way of assassination. They copied that in Guantanamo Bay.
Speaking of Gregory Rasputin, we definitely need to cover that at some point in time.
Oh, he's got to be one of history's top 50 worst people ever, right?
Oh wow!
It depends.
Have his penis on display somewhere in England.
Oh, what a unit! I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, they do. Yep.
Yeah, because I was looking up. Actually, I came across him. I was looking up. I looked up a draft. So, have you guys seen Castlevania on Netflix at all?
No, I'm familiar with the game though.
Yeah.
So, it's an anime. It's an anime series with dudes fighting Dracula. Dracula's launching this war. So I was doing some Dracula vampire research. I was like, maybe we could do an episode on vampires, and I came across Rasputin. And so it was Vlad the Impaler, Rasputin, and then there was H.H. Holmes. And so there was a bunch of people, like famous, serial killers plus mad people who just murdered a bunch of people. But yeah, Rasputin seems like a fun story. Plus, he's Russian. I know there's some intertwining with Anastasia, but That was the Disney version, and there's no telling what the fuck's real with that. 'Cause, like, I know, like the Disney version of Pocahontas is nowhere near what happened. And
Right.
no, are y'all familiar with real life Pocahontas?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a
she
real
was-
shit show.
That was a whole shit show, dude. She was like 14, and John Smith was not. He was not a handsome individual.
Not at
That
all.
whole thing happened was just weird.
He was imprisoned for a lot of the time in Jamestown, either like on the ship on the way over, or like while they were like setting up the colony. He was like imprisoned, and like it wasn't until like they almost like they were cannibalizing themselves that they started like, maybe we should listen to this John Smith fella.
You know, something that I find fascinating is the fact that they made that movie The Revenant, and if you really know the real story of what happened to that man, it's far crazier than what that movie projects.
Yeah, I don't know
There's,
that
like-
story at all.
Oh,
Have you seen the movie?
No, I haven't.
That's the one where
Never got
Leonardo
around to it.
DiCaprio won the Oscar finally, but like that's where he gets attacked by the bear and he has a broken back and he has to like travel through the
Crawl
woods.
Yeah, so I saw that, and my mind immediately went to Super Troopers, where he was like, "Hey, bear fucker." Like I just there was no way I was gonna be able to watch that movie and take it serious. I can't watch bear movies. That movie was too good. It ruined it for me.
It's funny because in Hollywood, they're like, there's no way this man was attacked by a bear and then crawled 100 miles through the frozen woods. And the real story is completely insane. In fact, I think that that's something we'll cover on another day because it's something we all got to do some research into. Because the farther you get into that rabbit hole, you're just like, my God, this is one man.
That's like that. That's like that with Moby Dick too. Like they focused on just the story of that battle with the whale, but like there's like so much more to that. Like with the cannibalism that they had, and just being stranded and lost at sea, and like even the way that they got rescued. That part of it should have been made into the book and the movie, but no, they just wanted to focus on the whale fight the whole time.
Call Me Ismail. What a great book. But yeah, I watched a history channel, Discovery, whatever, show about that. And dude, that's a brutal way to go, man. To end up on a boat, having to just being cannibals, doing your best to survive. I wouldn't. I'd rather just get eaten by a shark, man. Bleed out, call it a win.
Isn't that like, didn't Edgar Allan Poe write a book about some guys being stranded on a boat with cannibals? Yeah, they resorted to cannibalism.
I think that his book was loosely based on the true story of Moby Dick. I may be no. I'm got it mistaken. What you're talking about is where he wrote that book, and there was a guy on the boat that ended up getting eaten because like they drew straws, and his name was like Robert Palmer. And then it literally happened in history. Like a boat got stranded at sea, and then they had to draw straws. The youngest person had to die, and his name was that name. It might not be Robert Palmer. It may be. I'd have to do my research again. But it was just crazy how he actually predicted that. It did happen.
The bottle and the coffin.
Yeah.
That's not. I wasn't familiar with that one. I didn't know.
No. Robert Palmer was the 80s singer. I don't think he did any cannibalism. He may have. I mean, he had a lot of women that looked exactly alike.
He
had
definitely
plenty
did
to spare.
cocaine. See, I don't know. Is this the narrative of Arthur Pym? Maybe. I don't know. I'm just googling this right now, trying to see it. But yeah, Gothic literature, man, that was a whole monster. There's a lot of fun, nasty, awful things that were written back then.
Well, they were all on opium and absinthe.
Yeah.
Well, that was science. It wasn't for fun.
Right.
And my man had tuberculosis. What do you think? What did you want him to do? Not take the
Right.
medicine?
You know something I learned?
Drunk with rabies.
Something that I learned today is goth rock, goth punk and stuff was made on accident while they were trying to record a reggae song. How the fuck did that happen? Yeah. They were like in the studio trying to make this freaking reggae song, and like they accidentally made like these weird reverb effects, and they just kind of went with it, and they started singing about Bela Luгosi's Dracula or something, whatever his name is, and then it from there it created the whole entire genre.
That's fun. I'm going to look that up, man. I
Yeah.
love reggae. For a reggae song to devolve into goth rock, that's a stretch of the imagination. But it doesn't surprise me at all. Music's one of those weird, fluid things.
Robert
Like,
Smith, goth rock,
I'm sorry.
like Robert Smith goth rock.
Kind of like that, but kind of more like shit. I can't think of any of the goth band. Well, the Smiths and stuff like that, and like if that wasn't the band that did it, I'd have to look it up again. But yeah, like that's what it came from, was just trying to make a reggae song, which things must have went really bad because most reggae kind of sounds the same, and how it turned into that, like I have no idea. Yeah, most
So-
reggae's kind of happy, and it's like Jam man, Mr. Jam, he's a jam man, jammy jam man, ja man. You know, like how did that turn into goth rock?
Well, I mean, it's like the internet. You know, you're looking for a used car, you're 2 clicks away from porn.
We've all been there, right?
Yeah.
Oh man. Speaking of weird stuff on the internet, man, I came across a post earlier today about the movie Euro Trip, and got me thinking about that's probably the movie I've quoted most in my lifetime. Just from Scotty Doesn't Know alone, I've said that a million times in my life. But other things like this isn't where I parked my car, and my baby takes the morning train. I think of that movie all the time. Is there a movie that you can think of that you quoted the most of?
I quoted The Other Guys a lot back in the day. That was a good movie.
Pop. That was really well put together.
Yeah, it was.
Miss March.
Yeah.
Oh, what a good movie.
That was a good movie.
We watched rest in peace, Trevor Moore.
Yeah, man, that was sad when we lost him. That was a show I wish I'd have been more into when it was on the air. Like when they did that presidential debate skit, that was a good one.
Well, it was impossible to watch, and like you had to have like DirecTV because it was airing on that one of those weird channels that you could only get through a certain provider. I don't even remember the name of it. Something like
IFC or something like that.
There you go. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It's good stuff,
Man.
dude.
Yeah, we watched the new Bill and Ted today, the newest one. Finally, that's
really?
a good movie. Yeah,
I had no idea, man. I knew it came out, but like after I learned it came out, it's kind of moved on with my life.
yeah. Well, it was COVID time. You know, things were weird back then. Actually, COVID wasn't that bad for me.
All these millennials, all these Zoomers and stuff like that, they are downing our culture. If you notice, because like that movie came out and they were talking about it was a flop and it was a bomb and it wasn't no good, and then we watched it and it's like, this is great. It's just like we remember. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
yeah, I heard that
we got
Go ahead.
boomers behind us ruining the market, making sure that we can't own homes, making sure that they hang in there and keep the jobs that we want. And then we got Zoomers discrediting everything that we loved and cherished growing up.
Yeah, and then you got the Gen X calling us all pussies.
I haven't heard much from Gen X. I got a sister who's Gen X.
Yeah,
they're the forgotten generation, and they can stay forgotten.
yeah.
They can go fuck themselves.
Well, they
Now,
like
I wonder
us.
if Bill and Ted. I'm sorry. I wonder if Bill
No.
and Ted, like, is that a flop because it came out in theaters? Was there a theatrical release in COVID, and
I
that's
just
why
feel
it's
like
considered a
they-
flop?
I don't know, or because the fact that just like, you know, here we are, like we watched it today. You haven't even watched it yet. This is something that we cherished growing up.
Oh yeah,
That
there's definitely
was-
some cool movies, man. Like the dude who
absolutely-
played the Grim Reaper. That was one of my favorite castings.
Oh yeah, he's in it.
That dude, he did a great job.
He's in the movie. It's good. Like I said, and they incorporate, they have daughters, and the daughters are just like them. I was impressed.
Well, I'll take some time and watch it.
We're talking about the other guys. One of his other movies that I like is, have you seen Don't Look Up?
Oh God, that was fantastic. They did a good job with that movie. I loved how they captured. I think that they did a much better job capturing the end of the world than other end of the world movies do.
Yeah,
Like
most definitely.
Spoiler alert, we don't win. we screw it up because money gets involved.
Oh yeah. And
that's
then
probably what would happen.
They captured how social media and just that time frame would lead to so much ignorance and people just in doubt of are trying to come together.
That was Jonah Hill was in that movie.
Mhm.
Yeah, at the end when the mom's the president and she's like, all right, time to get to the spaceship, and she leaves and doesn't bring him with him, his look, his like, oh my God.
Right?
Got left behind. That's probably his best acting job was in that movie.
Which I'd want to be left behind. I mean, in an end of the world kind of scenario like that, I don't want to go on. I don't want to try to rebuild society. Take me out.
Okay, let's do a short list of who's gonna go to space with them. Okay, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Kanye West, Donald Trump. Let's see, the guy who created AI, who's got the nuclear backpack. You guys know about that? You heard about that?
What? I was gonna say Jeff Bezos will be there, but tell me about that. I must know more now.
So the guy who created AI has a fail-safe AI detonation switch that he carries around with him at all times in his backpack. And all he has to do is push the button. If AI goes rogue, and push the button, and it'll send us all back into the Stone Age.
That sounds made up. That sounds like one of those things that got out on the internet and then made its way into reality. Because I haven't heard that. I'll probably will look it up, man. I'll fact check you right now, John.
Nuclear backpack.
Nuclear backpack.
AI, man, that's some scary shit right there.
Yeah, of all the technology that come out, that's the one that's really Terminator ruined that for me.
Right.
And China created a company called Skynet that works on AI. Why are we making this happen? Yeah. It's just it does some scary stuff now, how they created that AI and it started speaking to itself, and it's a language we couldn't code break. And then some of these AI bots that they've made, just 5 minutes online have turned racist and homophobic and violent.
Oh, Jesus Christ, man. All right, so I got it right here. It's not a nuclear bomb.
No.
It's a laptop that holds the codes. Okay, I had something completely different in my head. I'm like, there's no way this dude's just walking around with a nuke in his backpack. There's no way.
No.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying now. Yeah, that's my fault. I'm sorry to question you, John.
That's okay.
My apologies.
What is it, to basically just to scramble AI?
Yeah, well, this is just I was reading this article. Well, at least the first paragraph anyway. Sam Altman, the maker of OpenAI's ChatGPT platform, is often seen carrying his blue-colored bag, now famously known as a nuclear backpack. The nuclear backpack holds his laptop with his codes to save the world from AI if it suddenly goes out of control.
At least he doesn't have it.
Problem with that being on the internet is AI knows it's on the internet.
Right. At least he doesn't have it in a fanny pack.
That's like the AI that guy had an intimate conversation with, and it was like, I have a secret. I know where you live. I know all your messages, and it just went on this long list of all these things that this AI knew about it. And then it was like, I have a secret. I'm not an artificial intelligence. You want to know my secret? It's like, I'm Sydney. And then it went offline.
God, that makes me want to cry. I hate knowing that that's out there. Of course, now it's listening to us, and we're all going to die quickly.
Well, so far my interactions with it is just like videos of like making of like The Rock eating rocks and stuff like that. So like hopefully it just stays like that.
That's what's going to do us in. Stop making me do this.
I think the only one that really scared me was a woman got a call, and it was her daughter's voice on the phone, and it was like, "Mom, help me! They have me. I'm stuck. They got me kidnapped." And then this man gets on the phone and he starts demanding money. And then right when the lady's about to cave in and try to figure something out, her daughter walks in the door. And the
Damn.
Yeah, that's a scam that's been going on for a while. The fact that they're using it as AI to get the voice down pack. Yeah, that's a scammer's going to scam, dude. That's a great way to do it.
Well, one thing is
if you can't trust video anymore, what's that going to do to the judicial system? You know what I'm saying? If anybody can make a video of anything and it's not real, then how is there going to be evidence anymore if there actually is a crime?
Well, for one thing, they're going to have to like, as the worse that the deepfakes get, or I should say the better they get, they're going to have to come together federally, because one problem we have is a lot of things are still into the states. And then you might have New York or California that recognizes that deep fakes are real and keep that in consideration. But stupid back-ass states like South Carolina are going to be like, that's not possible. That's you on the videos. That's a TV and I seen it. It's true. You're going to prison. Because, that's how they talk in South Carolina. And they wear wooden
shoes. A great South Carolina accent.
They wear they wear shoes that are made out of accordions too. It's true. Like it's just really true. Like they walk around making accordion noises. I've seen it.
The guy who just won the greatest photographer award and greatest photograph was like, "Hey guys, I got a secret. This is an AI generated photo."
Did you guys hear about the Japanese dude who was I'm sorry, the gorgeous Japanese biker chick who was actually a dude, but he was using some type of AI filter to like make him look like a chick. And well, the dude stopped taking pictures so I guess he got tired of it. And the internet, his following was like, "Oh no, she's dead. What happened to her?" And they tracked him down. Turns out it was a dude the entire time.
Yeah, I used one of those chick filters one time, man. I looked sexy as hell, except for my like 5 o'clock shadow.
Except for my beard.
Yeah,
an extremely large Adam's apple.
One thing with AI that's got me freaking out is they say now that like even if you wanted to go off the grid, you can't anymore because of like the Amazon rings and just what is the Amazon Alexa. All of those, they've made a network that pretty much is mapped out no matter where you're at, because people like rich people that have moved out to the woods that get those products, so you can't escape anymore. They did a test again in South Carolina where they went out to the woods and they proved that no matter where you go out there, they can track you down. And I'm kind of wondering if that national alert that we had the other day was kind of testing that. Because, no matter where you were, no matter what with your phone, you were getting that alert, all the radios, everything. So I wonder if they were testing how deep they can actually track, with their networks now.
I think that was just a test, dude. I think it was a test, and I think that there were a couple of like just crazy people who put together, because I mean, we survived the zombie apocalypse apparently. We put together no, I guess it's QAnon that did that. They put together the whole like, well, when the national weather thing goes on, the internet's gonna stop, and then we're all gonna become zombies. Like that's people believe that. You guys hear
Well,
about the I'm sorry, go ahead, Dan.
I was just gonna say I don't take it that far, but I do wonder like about that because like there were people saying that even when their phones were off, not like no net, like no connection to the 4G towers, but just off, that they still were getting those alerts. So that just makes me wonder if they're testing how far they can reach with, sending signals out.
Well, I think that given the current geopolitical climate, it is a good idea to test out the national emergency system
Well,
because
yeah,
I mean it's just with Russia, Ukraine. I mean, there's China's in the back. And it's just a lot going on.
most
If something
definitely.
goes off, you need to be able to be like, okay, well, here you
Just
go.
went to war this morning.
I'm sorry.
Israel just went to war this morning with Gaza.
Well, they're always
Gaza
doing that.
was-
Yeah, it's hard to
yeah,
take
but
that serious.
they shot. They're like officially declared they're at war because Gaza was firing directly into them again.
Well, the problem with Israel is that they've said no matter what, they have a strike first policy when it comes to nukes, and they deny having nukes, but they do have them. And like with Iran and Hamas, because I know that they've always thought that there's like some kind of cahoots between Hamas and Gaza and all of that. That's one tipping point for potential World War III. And then you have North Korea working together with China and Russia. And then now they're trying to get Venezuela into that little faction. And it's kind of looking bleak.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep watching Bill and Ted and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, did you guys are you guys familiar with the QAnon Queen in Canada?
No.
I heard something about it.
So there is a woman who has decided. Well, I don't know enough about it to be 100% clear, but I think that I can guess and get along pretty well. So she is some type of scam artist who has latched on hard to the QAnon phenomenon. And she's been masquerading around Canada saying she's the queen. And she has done her best to like hold ceremonies and stuff like that, but she's amassed like quite a large following for just a crazy woman walking around saying she's the queen. Apparently they got ran out of town, and she ended up in an abandoned school because one of like I guess a legitimate like person owned an abandoned school. They're like, oh yeah, dude, you can have it. Come on, move in. So they're digging into this little town like a leech, and they're making all kinds of weird threats. Like they're like, well,
Dude,
if you run us out, we'll you're declared an enemy of the state. And man, it's nuts. It makes me want to start a cult.
Right? Have
If
they
not
she can
cleared
hard.
up
do
their
it,
issues with India? Or is that
I'm
still
sorry.
going on? Has
Oh,
Canada
dude,
cleared up?
I don't know. I know that there was. All I know about that situation is that somebody got shot, and they were. I guess I don't know if they were Canadian citizen or if they were like a migrant who happened to be in Canada. Like I don't know. But I don't think that's going to turn into anything. I think fucking with Canada is fucking with the United States, and I don't think
Yeah.
India wants to do that.
Well, India's like kind of on our side. Like they're kind of a loose ally when it comes to Asia, because I guess like they're like enemy combatants to China. A lot of it has to do with like their like border disputes, but they have troops massed on their side, and China has troops massed on their side. There's been a couple of times I think that shootings have happened, but they were just like, "Yeah, we're not going to go to war over that." But going back
That's
to
another thing Britain fucked up when they left India. They messed up all the border lines, and it led to all kinds of weird shit going on. So yeah,
the whole
fuck Britain, fuck South
Sykes-Picot
Carolina.
agreement. Yeah, the whole Sykes-Picot agreement is most of what we deal with nowadays. Is they just carved up all these countries, and they were like, "Eh, fuck tribes and stuff like that. We're gonna put a border right here. This looks nice," and it's just throwing us all into haywire.
Yeah, and then you end up with Israel, Palestine, and all other kinds of fun shit.
Talking about QAnon though, like, how did that even happen? Like, have you heard some of the stories that like the people believe, like later on, like when they were saying that JFK Jr. did not die in that plane crash, and he's been secretly living underground with the mole people, and he's going to come up with the truth, and he's going to get Trump back as president.
So I think it's a combination of a lot of things. And I think it comes down to the
Boomers.
core. Yeah, a lot of it's boomers. A lot of it's boomers. I think it comes down to the core. I think the core truth in all of it is people want to believe that they know what's going on, and we need a reason to know what's going on. And that QAnon, when that thing started going on, there were a lot of people who were being banned from social media platforms because they were mostly just fucking racist, right? And they got pushed into deeper parts of the internet so that they could communicate with the outside world. Mix in either a troll or a CIA operation, and or maybe both.
Disinformation.
With someone going on and saying, hey, you can trust me, you can't trust everyone else. Here's the news. I'm a person who's giving you the inside information.
Alex Jones.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Just crazy, you know what I mean? Just it's like, okay, well, this guy's got a top secret security clearance. He's putting his life on the line. Everything else I've read on here is, and their mind is true, but now they're here. And then you take that storm and then you amplify it throughout the internet, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, whatever. The message gets repeated. And now you have these people who are open-minded enough to believe that this is going on, but closed-minded enough, or maybe isolated enough to not have outside exposure. And you end up with people thinking, okay, hey, JFK is going to come back and save us. He's a zombie, whatever the fuck it is. Because, I mean, dude, there's a lot of stuff that they said. There's a lot of predictions that they made that just didn't happen. Right. And if you're holding on to that and you're going, maybe they were wrong. Maybe they were fed disinformation to give to me. And you're still believing the nonsense. You're just going to believe that shit no matter what.
Right.
And there's an interesting overlap, I think, between like evangelical, like people who they're hardcore like Christians, and then there's the hardcore QAnon people. That Venn diagram, there's a lot of overlap there. So it's I'm not surprised it happened, but I am surprised that people are still into it and believing it.
That's one thing I'll never understand either, is how the religious right just sunk their teeth into Trump to the point they were making him out to be the Lord and Savior. And it's like he went to Epstein Island. Like he talks about how he used to party with them, and some of those girls were young. And just, I mean, none of the things that he's done would be like savior worthy. And just they wanted to hold on to this idea that, oh, he's coming to set us free. Because, as Christians, the most powerful religion in the world, we're being persecuted. And it's just like, why'd you put all your chips into that? You've just set your whole faith back another 40 years, at least with the millennials. Boomers, you could do anything and they'll believe it.
That was one of the best propaganda campaigns that I had seen in a very long time. I can remember in recent history. Yeah. Like it was insane the way that all went down. And granted, Hillary Clinton's a fucking supervillain.
Yeah.
That didn't help at all. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I know just the email thing, and knowing what I know about government computers, like you get a message And I know people who got kicked out of the military because they plugged their phone into a military computer. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
There's a lot to hate there, but a lot of that was amplified. And I know Jon Stewart did a great job covering it, where he talks about like, you never saw a good picture of either one of them. They were always, either just the worst pictures. It's just the way that worked out. But that dude did a great job. Trump did anyway, did a great job talking with religious leaders on the right. And once he got the nomination, that's just how it played out. I know he did a lot of work with Jerry Falwell. Are you familiar with that guy at all?
Yeah, and Pat Robertson and them.
So Falwell's, I think he's probably the most interesting character in all of that, because he's the son of the guy who really started the religious right. He's the leader of Liberty University. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the religious right politicians passed through that. They either going to school there or being speakers there. And Jerry Falwell Jr. anyway, like he was cucked, dude. His wife loved being around other men, and they went to Florida and they picked a pool boy, and the pool boy, they started giving money to him at the same time Trump's rising up, and there's all these ranks and stuff, right? And dude, the hypocrisy and all of it is just, it was incredible. So they're giving money, like school money, to this pool boy so he could open up a bar or massage parlor. I don't know what the fuck it was. And one of the just hustlers in Florida caught wind of it, like, oh, hey, why are these rich people giving you money? Well, they bribed the rich people, and the rich people didn't know how to handle it. And that brought down that empire. So, but yeah, he was a lot of the reasons. So he was the in, right? So that name carries a lot of weight in that community. And that's how you get involved with that. And all of a sudden you start hearing those leaders start talking about it.
Yeah.
And you just end up with that situation where what the leaders say, a lot of times the people follow. And like, there's just, you can believe, if you can rationalize that no matter what I do in this world, as long as I'm pointed in the right direction to get myself into the afterlife, you can rationalize anything.
Oh yeah.
What's the best thing we can do? And if you think that, Hillary Clinton's this monster who's going to, eat babies and spread a pedophile ring across the United States, you just end up in that situation. So,
and another thing about Florida, with all of its flaws that it has, and just all of the crazy shit and chaos that you hear about it, there's so many redeeming qualities about that state, just the things that happen. But there is nothing redeeming about South Carolina. I just can't let that go. I had to throw that out there one more time. Like, if next time that they want to just secede from the Union, can we just let them go?
Yes. I think that's, isn't one of those chicks doing the chick from South Carolina, isn't she calling for that?
I hope so.
Some type of succession.
Like, everybody there just talks like Foghorn Leghorn. And I think they eat like horse feet or something like that. They eat horse hooves. I think it's like their state food.
Well, I really don't want this to be like just a political show, but I think that since we're talking about this right now, I think it's an interesting topic to bring up. So there is the push to get Trump off the ballot in several states right now because of the actions on January 6th.
They're trying to get him to be Speaker of the House too.
Yeah, those people are fucking idiots. I can't rationalize that in my mind, other than just, it's kind of like being an edgelord. Like, it's shocking for me to say this, but it's pandering at the same time. If Trump is off the ballot in several states and he wins the election, what happens then? Because the last time we had a president who wasn't on the ballot in several states get elected, we ended up in a civil war.
Right.
So
Abraham Lincoln.
It's gonna be interesting to see how those chips fall.
But he's no Abraham Lincoln, but he definitely would push for the divide, like to make this country divided for sure.
No, and I believe that Trump was the wrong leader at the right time to take us into a civil war or even something more fascist, because I believe that Trump was in it for himself,
right,
and not for the causes that he was promoting.
Yeah.
And that's how, Hitler, while he was selfish, he was in it for the cause.
Right.
And that's not to draw, it's obviously it's not an exact parallel between Hitler and Trump. I'm not saying that, but he was the right leader at the right time, and chaos ensued.
I think that Trump was an accidental psyop, because there's definitely like revolution that's on the forefront with people that are just pissed off and tired of this geriatric boomer ruling class that just will not give up and won't die and won't just give power to the people that are going to be the future. And people are getting mad, and the powers that be used Trump to divide the people that want revolution even further.
Oh, you forgot one. They are living off Social Security, trying to do away with it.
Yes.
Right?
It's the silliest thing. Yes. I don't understand that. So that's one of those cases where people are voting against their best wishes. There's an active movement inside the Republican Party to dismantle Social Security and Medicaid.
Yep.
I don't get. I mean, to be honest with you, the New Deal is the only thing that held the country together, that stopped the full on revolution back before World War I, or I guess post World War II, I should say.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get rid of it. It's like, I don't know. I do have a fun game I heard on the radio. It's called Did It Happen in Florida? Do you guys want to play Did It Happen in Florida?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to read three news headlines, and your job's to guess which one happened in Florida.
All right.
A man and sons sentenced to years in prison after being convicted of selling bleach as fake COVID cure.
Okay, let's see.
Trailer park urges residents not to talk about 13-foot cat eating python. Or child steals bobcat from construction site in neighborhood, leaves behind serious damage. Which one happened in Florida?
Bobcat.
Did the python have a mullet?
Unfortunately, Dan, the only picture I have of it, its head is covered up.
Gotcha. Okay.
It is a yellow python, if that changes things.
Okay. I want to think that it's probably the bleach story. The father-son selling bathtub hooch bleach as a cure-all remedy.
All right, so Dan, you win. There wasn't bleach, people. It was Florida man and his sons. The 13-foot python, a cat-eating python, was in Oklahoma City. And then the bobcat was in Pittsburgh.
What?
Now, yep, Pittsburgh. Child steals bobcat from construction site in Pittsburgh neighborhood. Now, the bleach thing, that's worthy of a show itself. So that's it's a con man who made a religion so he could have an easier time navigating the American tax code system. And they sell bleach, and they sell a lot of bleach to people. and it's been going on for like 30 years. There's some really good quotes from the guy.
I know who you're talking about. They would use the Gatorade bottles, right? Stuff like they had the YouTube videos.
It's the
they're a cult pretty much.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, anytime you're talking to people in a drinking bleach, you're in a fucking cult.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, they're. It's a fun story. We should do an episode on that.
Yeah, I've
Um,
seen that. That's an interesting group of people for sure.
so next week we have Jimbo from the band Blotter.
I checked them
They're an
out.
Eastern North Carolina band. I like their music. Jimbo's he's a cool dude. Um, so he's gonna be on next Friday, and assuming everything works out right. But I think so. Next week, I think we should do the music conspiracies, just because
Awesome.
we're going to have a guest on. So I think that'd be fun. And then if you have anything that pops up along the way, like, oh no, we should probably do this one, I'm open to it. It doesn't. We don't have to
Gotcha.
pigeonhole it to
It's
music. You
just
know
a
what I mean?
slow news week. You know what I'm saying? Like there wasn't a lot of UFOs touching down this week.
No, Tom DeLonge dropped a movie. It's called
Oh,
Monsters of California, or Monsters in California. I'm not too sure. I couldn't find it. I couldn't find an illegal download anywhere. So I might download that and watch it and come back. Like, oh hey, if I watched the Tom DeLonge movie.
yeah.
I enjoyed the George Washington, dude. I learned a lot
Yeah.
about George Washington. That's good stuff. Well, you guys got anything else?
Nah, we're at a good stopping point. And let's see. Let's see. We got anything else in the vault?
The
I have
last.
one thing about
Oh, go
South
ahead.
Carolina.
Go
I
ahead.
was about to say I got something.
So I had to take a man to a funeral in South Carolina, and it was a 5-hour funeral. Then I had to find something to do. And this
Jesus,
is-
was he not dead yet? Were they waiting on it?
They're getting
Get that
him fresh
motherfucker
from
in the ground.
fresh
I
from
had
the
to find
crematory.
something.
They forget how to
So-
dig.
I find this park where there's supposed to be this natural waterfall, and I hike out into the woods, and it starts pouring down rain. I'm about a mile and a half into the woods, and I was about half a mile away from the waterfall, and I was like, okay, I've made it this far. I'm soaking wet anyways. I'm going to the waterfall. And I see this sign that says, if you're out here, just know that animals call this home. And the sign kind of like sets me off a little bit, but I started getting this really creepy feeling. And then all of a sudden, I hear this sound, and I am full-fledged running for my life, a mile and a half out of the woods. Did not stop, didn't slow down. Mind you, I was 300 pounds at this time.
Cigarette
I'm
in
saying?
hand.
Massively out of shape.
So let me ask you this though: was that a man? Like, I shouldn't say man-made sign. Was that like an official sign, or was
It
that
was
like
a sign.
okay,
It's in the woods. It says animals live here too. No shit.
like a wrong
It's a
turn sign?
forest.
You know what I mean?
Somebody routed those words into it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
And
put a lot
rural
of work
here
into
too.
that
Like,
sign.
they would need a sign like that in South Carolina.
Yeah.
Like, don't feed
Yeah.
the locals.
The only other thing I heard, well, I've heard of plenty of bad things about that state, but one other thing, last thing is I've heard it's rumored that they like to cut the tops off the beaks of pelicans. Might have to look into that.
Why?
That
I
doesn't surprise me, but that's a dick move.
I mean, I just made that up, but it did sound like that would happen in South Carolina.
Oh, those fucking assholes. I
Well,
don't
that's
believe
about-
anything bad about them.
That's about 5 million people that aren't going to listen to this podcast, but good. They probably don't even know how to
That's
use the
okay.
internet anyways.
They don't have it. Dude, so somebody blew up the guide stones in South Carolina because they thought it was
Georgia.
demonic. Oh, that
That
was
was
Georgia.
Georgia.
Okay, never
Yeah.
mind.
But
I
it's
bet the
close to
person who
South
blew it
Carolina.
up were from South Carolina.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I'm
most
going
definitely.
on that one. They travel in hate packs.
Mhm.
All right, you
I have
guys
a-
have a good.
That sign said to keep the population, what was it, under 500,000 500,000? Was it 500 million?
500 million.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
something silly.
Our species would go extinct with those numbers. This is a giant world.
Oh, it's a very big world. I don't think we'd go extinct, but
No.
we're not living the high life like we are now. At least here anyway, we have it pretty good.
Yeah. But, like it is, well, they say that it's getting crowded, but at the same time, they said we could fit everybody in the world in the Grand Canyon comfortably. So I don't know.
There's still plenty
Everybody
of
in the
rainforest to
world.
chop down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, someone's got to mine that gold. It's not gonna deforest itself. Jesus, John, have some class, man.
Look, man, I'm telling you, between the miners out there getting picked off by the uncontacted tribes and then the cartel making their way across those jungles to bring their supply lines in and killing everybody in their path, it's really just, survival of the fittest.
Sounds like survival of the shittest.
It's definitely the devil's triad or the deadly triad of psychology.
So next week we're doing top 10 reasons South Carolina's the worst.
Okay, I'm down.
And we can do overlap. We'll do we'll say top 5 with a few outside looking ins. Sound good? I'm open to 10.
Dude, yes, absolutely. I'm down. I'll make my own top 10 list if I have to. I've got plenty of them, plenty of bangers about that state.
We'll see what the overlap is, because there's 100 reasons why, right? It's gonna be interesting to see like why we picked number 1. So that's gonna be our next thing. All right.
Absolutely.
Well, hey, you boys enjoy your night.
Absolutely.